as we've been telling you this morning, are setting out their stall this morning on how they deal with Britain's knife crime epidemic.
Sir Keir Starmer says that those carrying knives would face real consequences under a new Labour government. To find out what that actually means, we're delighted to be joined by Labour's Shadow Policing Minister Alex Norris, looking slightly cold. Alex, welcome to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's cut to the chase, because I've been talking about it all morning. The knife crime epidemic in this country is an absolute national disgrace, and we can talk about how crimes have risen across the country. We can talk about how people can get zombie knives online. We can talk about many different ways. For me, there's an interesting part of today. The Tory party is saying, finally, we're going to ban zombie knives. We're going to make possession illegal. Many other Tories are saying you should go further. You should make more stop and search. You should make, prison sentences longer. The Labour Party, from a different angle, are saying we're going to spend 100 million quid on a youth movement. We need to reconnect our youth with things that matter and give them a purpose in life that doesn't centre on going out and getting a knife and potentially stabbing someone fatally. Is it not a combination of both, though, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. It is a combination of both. That's what our policy is. We want to see real support to help get young people off to the best start in life, or if they are coming off the right tracks, to get them back onto it. But there has to be real consequences for carrying a knife. I think that viewers would be astonished to know that nearly half the people who are caught with a knife essentially face no further action. That needs to change. And for our young people particularly, we're finding that they're being told to write letters of apology or having cautions with no conditions attached to them. So, no, that's not right either. So our belief is that, as you say, it should be a bit of both.
I think one of the questions, Alex, that people will have is they'll look at the record in London, where Sadiq Khan has been in charge, and they'll say, why was it that last year there were nearly 13,000 knife offences? The strategy there hasn't been working.
I don't think that's wholly fair, Rosie. I think, if you look at Sadiq's record since 2016, injuries from stabbings are down. If you look at, say, homicides from young people, well, they've halved in the last year, and now Sadiq accepts that one is too many. But, progress has been made. There are challenges in London. No one's naive about that. But what we need is, for London and for the rest of the UK, proper policies, both in terms of early interventions and then proper policies in terms of consequences for those who carry knives. That's how we bring this forward.
Listen, Alex, I'd not in any way tell the Labour Party how to do PR, because I think you do appear to be polished and on message, but I wouldn't be advocating Sadiq Khan. I'm sick and tired of talking about London, because I actually want us to understand there is many, many people, millions, who live outside the M25, and it's why I go on about it the whole time. I think you're right. Let me throw something else at you. Stop and search is always a contentious issue. Oh, it's only against a certain segment of society. Stop and search, stronger prison sentences, start building some now. Consequences. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, Alex Norris, but we used to be scared of the old bill. It's become a point where the youths of today, don't laugh at me, seemingly don't care. That's got to change, hasn't it?
Well, I think you need to know that if you carry a knife in public, there are going to be consequences for that. And as I say, at the moment, that is not the case. At the moment, I don't think that's a surprise, therefore, that we've seen knife crime increase by 70% since 2015. So what we're talking about, what we're offering as an alternative to the government, is what those consequences would look like. And particularly, as I say, for those for whom this behaviour is escalating in young people, because you don't generally just start, grab a knife and then go and do something terrible, that those consequences would start in a way that diverts them out of those sort of behaviours, changes their lives and stops this from happening. So, as I say, I don't think it has to be an either-or between support and consequences. We want to see them both.
Very interesting.
I think one of the big criticisms that the Labour Party are coming up against is the public are hearing things about how you want to reform at the education system. Now we're hearing about how you're going to divert money from youth leaders to then try and help tackle things like knife crime. We were speaking earlier to the IFS, who've got a pretty gloomy outlook for the UK economy, to speak to both your party and the Conservatives and say, look, tax cuts coming, we can't really afford that, our public services can't. What they've said is, you've set out 3 tax rises to fund everything you've suggested so far. The non-DOMs, VAT, business rates, private schools and changes to pensions. What we are a bit confused about, I think, the public, is that when you add the total sum of that up, it doesn't seem to be sufficient to say, OK, all those policies we've had so far, tick, 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 we see how they're all being spent. Are you holding back a big announcement on either a tax cut or a tax rise to suggest how these things are going to be paid for?
Well, tax policy will be set out by Keir and Rachel Reeves in the days, weeks and months before the election. What I'm bringing to you today, Rosie, a fully costed plan to have youth hubs across the country, to have detached youth support in our hospitals, in our criminal justice system, all of which is fully funded by putting that VAT, onto private schools and paid for by firearms licensing. So we've been very clear, the politicians to make unfunded commitments. Everything we say and we offer will be paid for and will be exactly clear, down to the pound and penny, about how that is. I understand, and I've seen what the IFS has said overnight. There is no doubt the damage the Conservatives have done to this country will make the job very hard, but we will give serious leadership at a time when the public need it, and that will be properly costed, fully funded plans.
And you see, Alex, that's the point, and we really appreciate being here. That's the irony, my friend. Everybody remembers Liam Byrne's letter 15 years ago saying there's no money left. For me, to sit here and listen to the Labour Party talking about fully costed and regulated stuff and the Tories in such a mess is ironic. I just want to ask you one thing about law and order, completely off the cuff. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. My personal campaign, Gary Glitter's parole hearing, right? Tell me from a policing point of view, because this is massively important to the British public. There are certain people, are there not, Alex Norris, that should never be released from prison for the safety of the public. We need to be strong there, don't we, man?
Well, we don't design laws and penalties around individuals. There have to be approaches that would apply to you or to me or to anybody else, Jeremy. And, in those cases, the serious cases like the one you raised, they should feel the full punishments that all those aggravating factors, as I believe was the case. If that comes to an end and individuals who have shown to be dangerous in the past are in the community, there are other ways too that we can make sure that the community is safe and protected, and that's, I've no doubt, the process that will happen in this case.
Listen, we really appreciate it. You make the point. You can't really provide too much detail until you know the situation, but that was Alex Norris. Thank you for joining us this morning.